Extruder was sold by Osmart. It is a PlayStation 1 and 2 light gun with rumble-based force feedback. Its design is heavily inspired by the Namco GunCon 2. The most notable visual difference is the lack of a fake light attachment below the barrel of the Extruder. The G-Con 2 is my favorite light gun. Naturally, this increases my interest in third-party controllers which copy it to some extent. In episode 197 I talked about reproductions which do not merely duplicate the fake light attachments of the original, but replace it with a functional laser unit. I think the opposite situation, removing the fake light attachment because the functionality isn't really given, equally as interesting. A representative for the latter is the Gemini Light Blaster, which is one of my favorite third-party light guns. I have covered it in episode 147. The Extruder belongs to the same group and it manages to resemble the original GunCon 2 closer than any other light gun I'm aware of. Actually, I have shown the shell of the Extruder before in episode 116, in which I covered the Cobra Strike plug-and-play system. Interestingly, in this application the gun lacks lots of the internals and had its buttons glued into place from the inside. The Extruder feels sturdy and is of a high build quality. The shell copies most of the fine details of the G-Con 2 and even mimics the way the buttons are labeled. The Extruder name and the Osmart branding are just printed and not embossed, which leads me to believe that Osmart was just one of multiple distributors for the gun. Gun toys which are sold in the USA usually have a bright colored tip, which allows people to tell them better apart from real guns. Curiously, the tip of the Extruder uses minuscule amounts of red paint. In fact, there is so few paint that the color is hard to see when viewing the gun from the side. The clicky push-button switch-based trigger is pleasant to use as for its high tactility. All buttons on the gun are rubber dome based. The use domes are rigid and the actuators are small, which leads to a rather stiff feeling. It's by no means as severe as with push-button switch-based buttons, but it's notable nonetheless. The thin D-pad has sharp edges and is not very comfortable. The A and B buttons are distributed at the sides of the gun and are placed on top of the trigger guard. Instead of being on the heel, the C button is located right next to A. Start and select are at the left-hand side, where on the original GunCon 2 the A button would have been. The selector switches for the gun and fire modes are on the right-hand side. Auto reload, auto fire and auto fire plus auto reload are the available choices. The default capacity is 6 shots, but it can be reprogrammed by tapping the A button on a held down B button. On the heel is a TS socket, which is mapped to A and allows the player to connect a foot pedal. Next to the socket is the on-off switch for the rumble-based force feedback. The feedback is fast but very weak. Sadly, its strength seems to be dependent on how long the trigger is kept pressed. Very quick trigger flicks will just cause a very minuscule response. There is no dead zone in any of the 3 gun modes apart from a really narrow one at the bottom of the screen, which is too slim to be of a practical concern. Accuracy and precision are very good in normal gun mode and both GunCon modes. The buttons are not redundantly mapped and do what they state, except from A acting as special shot and B acting as start in normal gun mode. Personally, I love the Extruder. I miss the heel button very much, but that's the only gripe I have with this otherwise terrific controller. If you like the G-Con 2 and wish it had native pedal support, special features or wider compatibility, the Extruder is a fantastic choice. I still prefer the Gemini Light Blaster over it, because there the buttons are not as rigid, but honestly you can't go wrong with either gun. The Extruder came in a see-through blister. I like the choice of color and think the packaging looks very appealing. The language quality on the back of the box is miserable, considering it was distributed from Orlando, Florida. It seems people are quick to blame foreigners for bad translations, but they're not too comfortable to actually clean up text in the native language. This is the end of the review. My name is Ben. I thank you for viewing.